Who is the best bug in Pokemon? Many great minds have asked this question over the years, attempting a variety of strategies at narrowing down an answer, but I would posit that there's really only one way we can know for sure. There needs to be a competition, a contest, if you will. A level of play where trainers from around the world devote themselves to capturing the best bug they can get their hands on, and then having their insects judged by the best in the business. No, wait a minute. What day of the week is it? Oh my goodness, y'all, it's Tuesday, Thursday, and/or Saturday. We can put this question to rest. We just need to head to Johto's National Park and enroll in the legendary bug catching contest, where we'll see the sights, play some games, and catch some bugs. But before I tell you about the competition to find the best bug, I gotta tell you all about the best browser, the sponsor of today's video, Opera GX. I'm on a quest to eliminate as much boring in my life as possible, and I found this to be achievable even with the mundane task of web browsing through Opera GX's arsenal of mods that serve to customize the experience however I see fit. I'm personally set up with this Gen 4 Pokemon GX mod, and it's got my computer looking and sounding like my favorite DS games. Every time I open the browser, I'm greeted by this handsome fella, complemented by lovely black and red theming. Typing makes it sound like I'm running through the tall grass, but if you hit the spacebar, it's like I jump over a ledge. Just a little reference for all you gamers out there. When I open and close a tab, it's like I'm actually swinging out my Pokédex. And then it's got this lovely music in the background for the cherry on top. I'm really quite taken with it. And that's just one mod. Find whatever customizations suit your fancy in the gigantic GX mod store and really take control of the experience. That's the game overall here. Control. GX is packed with add-ons and features that let you control the process. If your browsing is honing in on your PC's resources, just activate GX Control and limit how much CPU or RAM the browser is allowed to use. I remain a big fan of the GX Corner add-on. It's this highly customizable Nintendo Power-like hub with articles, new releases, and deals. Let's see what they got today. I keep telling my friends I'm gonna play this Animal Well game, and I'm sure one of these days I won't be a liar anymore. Also, Fortnite Metallica. Could be big. And if you're on the fence about all this, swapping your browser to Opera GX is easy peasy too. Just hit the import button in settings to bring over any controls you already have in place. You can download Opera GX today for free using my link in the description or the pinned comment. And big thanks to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. There's something I find so lovable about Johto's bug catching contest. To describe the event in short, it's an exciting and unusual PvE game mode of sorts, playable in the Gen 2 games in addition to their Gen 4 remakes, where you try and compete with other trainers to find the best bug that you can within the ecosystem of the national park. And this is an excellent design. Simply in terms of mechanics, it's an effective method of using Pokemon's existing system of catching and collecting to change up the usual formula. Now, instead of battling with the Pokemon that we catch, we're battling through the catching process itself. And it's not just a fun distraction either. There are mighty and exclusive insects that can only be found in this competition, in addition to valuable prizes, so there's good incentive to give it a real shot. But there's also a certain charm to this format that has always been so striking to me. There's a very thoughtful immersion placed in the event that's always made it feel more like an experience, rather than just a shift in gameplay. From the moment you enter the building they host the contest in, there's a ceremonial feeling to things. But I fear I may be getting too deep into the territory of theoretical bugs just talking about it. So in order to see what I mean, let's enter the contest and really get down to business. In order to properly experience this event for all of its beauty and satisfaction, we've got to get up close and personal. So let's dive right in. The contest is held 3 times a week at the beautiful national park. Oh, how I love this park. It's truly one of the great gems of the Johto region. To get started catching some bugs, you just talk to these guys at either the entrances and they give you the rundown. The rules are simple. Using one of your Pokemon, catch a bug-type Pokemon to be judged. Would you like to give it a try? And bam! Just like that, we are off to the races in order to catch the mightiest bug before the 20-minute timer is up. But not without a few caveats. First, you're going to lose access to both your bag and the last 5 Pokemon in your party, leaving you only with your current follower Pokemon, and then 20 special Sport Balls provided for the contest. These essentially being reskinned Great Balls you can only use here. This creates some unusual difficulties exclusive to the contest, as this isn't like the Safari Zone where you get to freely throw Pokeballs without the worry of actually fighting what you encounter. The contest is instead a series of battles that your single fighter has to withstand while you look for the perfect bug. And if this one fighter happens to get knocked out, the contest ends right then and there with whatever bug you most recently caught. So now you're thrust into this dangerous balancing act. I need to encounter a lot of bugs, and quickly at that, if I'm gonna scout out the best one. But at the same time, I also need to carefully ration my Pokemon's health and avoid getting knocked out at all costs, because doing so will end my run in the once-a-day competition. With my bag inaccessible, there's no healing in between encounters. Unless my Pokemon has a healing move or held item, all damage is permanent. These confines, while not overtly explained by an NPC or in-game guide, are pretty transparently communicated to the player just by going through the competition itself. Poor Sneasel is sound asleep after they got hit by Paris's spore. Oh, well that's okay. I'll just use a full heal before going into the next encounter. But alas, it would seem that I have been hard locked out of access to my bag, so tough luck for me. Like it's not even on the menu anymore. There is absolutely no way for me to get to it. It's completely gone. And so now I've got a difficult choice to make. If I want Sneasel to wake up, I'm gonna need to hang out in a battle for a few turns so they can come to their senses. But what if some tough guy like Pinsir decides to show up and really ruin my fun with a well-timed brick break? And of course I would try to flee, but that's just more turns wasted later when I could be out looking for bugs. There's a different set of values imparted on the players here pretty immediately through the usage of consequences like this. And I find it to still be very rewarding because the cost of entry and losing are extremely minimal. You get in for free after all, and if you want to play again, you've only got a 2-ish day wait before you can. Potentially less if you reset the save or mess with the clock. Now certainly, a lot of these risks could be mitigated by just going full steamroller mode and bringing in something like your level 100 Gallade with False Swipe and Hypnosis. You know, the ultimate catching combo, and then just working things out for the next 20 minutes. But I think they sort of considered this in a way, because you get access to the competition very early along in the game's level curve, around level 20 or so, and before the 4th gym, and the bugs are hovering in the level 10 to 15 range. So not a massive risk, but still one to consider if you have to fight a lot to get the one that you think will be best. And even at low levels like this, Pokemon like Scyther, Pinsir, or Beedrill can be surprisingly tenacious and whittle you down as you're going through the contest. Once you beat the game in the remakes, the contest will jump up to the 25 to 35 range, and also features some National Dex Pokemon as an extra bonus. And you certainly won't have to worry about the curve at that point. But there is still a specific challenge being posed here. We have to actually fight the bugs, but we can't be so brutish that we simply mow them down. It requires something of a gentle hand, even if that hand is using False Swipe. And then the whole show is well incentivized with valuable rewards and prizes. You can only hold on to a single bug for judging, but whatever you ultimately decide on is yours for the keeping after the contest. And 2 of the most prized bugs here, Scyther and Pinsir, can exclusively be found during the event. They don't appear in the grass normally for whatever reason, nor anywhere else in Kanto or Johto in these iterations of games. And they're both quite powerful to boot, so collectors and battlers alike will be interested in taking the contest for a spin. Those special Pokeballs I mentioned are an exclusive for the contest, and they continue to be as such all the way up until Gen 8, so they make for a fun little bonus for collectors. And once the contest has concluded, the top 3 bug catchers will all receive an additional prize along the lines of this chart. And if you're not in the top 3, the losers, per se, you'll still walk out with a consolation prize. These are all for the most part the aspects of this design that the game either tells you to your face or hits you over the head with using the changes in gameplay. And it's all very workable because of the low stakes fun that seems to define the event. It allows you to make judgment calls without requiring dedicated research. Like I can say pretty assuredly that Scyther is probably going to be judged as a better bug than Caterpie just by looking at them. No offense to Caterpie at all, of course. I know they have a lot of fans. But I think the little guy has some growing to do in this context. Scyther also has awesome sword hands, so I assume that they're considering that as well. And that thought process is probably going to work out. I'm bringing home a Scyther, if nothing else. But it does make me question some things. To suspend disbelief for a little bit, I know this is a game running on a computer, and that computer runs on numbers. So scientifically speaking, how do they decide the best bug? At the end of the contest, the judge gathers everyone who entered and announces the top 3 places, each with their own specific score. An interesting footnote to the entire competition, as these point values are simply declared. Their calculation isn't described at all. You're simply told which bugs were best. And like many other things in Pokemon, this is where the unsuspecting rabbit hole begins. How are the games deciding on the specific of a number for any given bug? Because it can't just be, Scyther is awesome and Caterpie is for babies. dictating this score of 308? There's gotta be some sort of formula. And then beyond that, if we determine the specific attributes that make a bug valuable, it will also shed light on the question of who is the best partner that can most easily deliver those attributes. So let's start looking with what the game itself tells us. The guy who enters you into the contest says strongest bug wins. And while sort of vague, that is at least a decent starting place. Pokemon has a lot of clearly communicated metrics for strength, like a Pokemon's level or its attack stat. We could also look to our competitors for hints, but most of the NPCs merely just offer some competitive fanfare, sharing little things about their excitement or their love for bugs. I really like these ones who actually give you a bit of attitude during the hunt. If you've got time to chat, go find some bug Pokemon. He sounds like an annoying manager at a grocery store. I'm going to win. Don't bother me. Whoa, now that guy is serious about bugs. But after you play a round of the contest, all of the other competitors will calm down a bit, and they remain in front of the fountain after judging. This one says they heard that using Pokemon with beautiful colors makes it easier to win, and I have no idea what this nonsense means. This is classic playground rumor type talk. Maybe this is an extremely vague reference to the ability Illuminate that increases your encounter rate. The ability can be found in these games on the Staryu, Chinchou, and Volbeat lines. And yeah, I'd say these Pokemon surround me with beauty. So sure, it's not really a lead on the bugs themselves, but using Illuminate in this way will allow you to see more Pokemon in the 20-minute time limit. So if this is what she's alluding to, then I'd say it's pretty helpful advice. These two enthusiasts also share some interesting tidbits, with this guy saying he once caught a Scyther and didn't win, and the other saying he heard of someone winning with a Caterpie. And while this is sort of just vague gossip, it's also something the curious player can really consider. There's definitely something going on here beyond the simple catch Pinsir or Scyther to win. And then probably most fascinatingly, this guy claims that you can't win with Pokemon that are run down or low on HP. For one, this is completely new intel on winning. If this guy is right, it could be the breakthrough needed for a successful contest, but it also directly goes against everything the game has told us prior. Even just in the contest, a different guy tells you should lower their health. So it seems like there's some unclearness on the rules, even amongst the competitors themselves. It's sort of reminding me of a playground game of tag. Everyone's having fun, but there's some confusion on the rules or exact form of tag. Some people think there are bases, or you can get frozen or something. Resultantly, this discrepancy gives the event a sort of nostalgic novelty for me, but it leaves our search for the best bug a bit unclear, so we'll keep looking. If we dig a bit further, the official Heartgold and Soulsilver guide gives a bit more by explaining that certain Pokemon are worth a low, average, or high amount of points, and that we're looking for high point values, high levels, and also shiny Pokemon as your potential winners. This goes to explain the Caterpie win Scyther loss discrepancy we encountered earlier. And altogether, it equips you well enough to take first place in the contest if there was any doubt. But just for posterity's sake, let's take a quick look at the actual numeric values the game is looking for in the code. The details are unfortunately slightly different across the two generations of contests, so I'll flash the exacts on screen, but we're generally looking for high levels, high stats, high current HP, and then a static rarity score that's assigned to each Pokemon, with Pinsir and Scyther indeed being the highest. Interestingly, while shininess does provide a score boost in Gold and Silver, it has no effect on your score at all in the remakes, directly contradicting that page from the guide. But I think this singular generational oversight is alright. I know I'd throw the contest in a heartbeat if it meant getting a shiny Beedrill off the cuff. Just look at that luster. Now normally I get all huffy and over-explainy when it comes to hidden mechanics like this, but I actually find this to be a case where those under-the-hood elements are actually really effective, because for the most part, every one of those metrics serves the original ask of strong bug Pokemon. They simply said strong, but Pokemon has an established and agreed upon context of strength that revolves around levels, stat lines, and even rarity to a certain extent, so I think it really works here. Probably the biggest issue with this communication is the higher score being given to bugs with a more full health bar. I suppose the healthier ones are technically stronger, but it goes against the usual messaging of weakening Pokemon before catching them. But I don't think this really hurts the contest overall, as it falls in line with the whole backyard fun the event has going on. Just like a lot of the NPCs in attendance, You can, and most likely will, have a good time even if you don't know these intricacies because it's so low stakes. And then to answer that second question of who would be the best catching partner, the best Pokemon to use would not necessarily be a full swiper, but rather something that can drop sleep or paralysis and can then tough out the turns that it takes to catch a bug at full health. So maybe something like the aforementioned Chinchou or Lantern would actually be pretty great. Or maybe you really get in the weeds and use a Pokemon that can give you information on a bug's stat lines, like using Pain Split to get some hard numbers on a bug's HP, or just tanking a hit and then using a calculator to reverse engineer the attack stat. You can go as in-depth as you want, or not at all. This simple to understand, but potentially difficult to master premise that takes place on this beautiful landscape can really offer something for everyone. All in all, it's just an awesome minigame. There's ceremony and pageantry dedicated to the affair, as well as the mechanical uniqueness that not only allows interested players to really sink into the contest, but also distinguishes it from the rest of the gameplay. And it's just a very easy idea to get excited about. Let's all compete to catch the best bug. That's an idea that's childlike and whimsical, but also portrayed in complete earnest, which is exactly how I like it in my video games. My only remaining wish for the format would be for some way to do the contest with other players instead of NPCs. Fortunately, it's a simple enough system and scoring formula where it'd be easy to do this at home with friends or even a large group. And I'd love to get something like that going in the community, or just about anyone willing to get excited about it with me. Because even though at this point it might just be a small footnote in Pokemon's history, I find the bug catching contest such an important one because of what it represents. An earnest love for collecting these little creatures and getting to show them off, all packaged in a celebration of that love with prizes and fanfare. Those looking for beauty in these games will certainly find it here. And that's all I got for you folks. Really hope you enjoyed this one. The bug catching contest has a really special place in my heart, and I've got a lot of good memories with it from when I was a kid, so hopefully that love really came through. Let me know what you thought down below, maybe share some memories, or talk your favorite bugs. I love getting to hear this stuff. Oh, and I asked my friend Max, what's the best bug Pokemon? And he said it's Galvantula, so mystery solved. Have a good one folks, I'll see you next time. Droomish out.